Welcome to the Business Blast Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Wagner. This episode is brought to you by Wags Media. Wags Media provides you with everything you need to generate more customers and grow your brand. Head on over to wagsmedia.com, wagsmedia.com, to enter a contest where you can win a free, done-for-you custom website valued at $2,500 for a limited time only. Now, let's jump into the episode. All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Business Blast Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Wagner. Today I have Jessie May Wolfe with us. She is a best-selling author, speaker, and founder of HeartRise, a method and movement changing the pulse of communities from the corporate to the creative world. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Of course, we're happy to have you here. We'll jump into it. And the first one I have for you, Jessie, is what is the best story from your life that has an underlying valuable message?
Yeah, that's definitely a big question, but I would say that probably one of the most compelling ones was when I had to let go of my clothing line, which I had built up and which had my name. So there was definitely a challenge in that sort of the identity piece. And so it was a real letting go and having to sort of accept that there was going to be something else coming through. And what it taught me was, in letting go of a brand that I built up over years and had measured success with, and having my name attached to it and having to sort of release it and open up to what else was coming. There was a bit of a, mini meltdown around it because it was uncomfortable, but I also had a deeper knowing that there was something more. And what I've learned from that is that now it's taken a whole new shape, and it's in its own, it's emerged as something even more powerful, and that the attachment to just the name and the identification with it was not important, and that it was the greater purpose within me that has stayed consistent. So what was born as the brand and the clothing line still lives as HeartRise. So it was the greater kind of the heartbeat of what it was is still alive and even juicier now as HeartRise. So it was letting go of the idea, the attachment, the identity of what my name meant and getting into something bigger.
Yes, sometimes the worst things that happen turn into the best things. So if you don't mind me asking, and I'm just to dive deeper, like what was the reason behind, like why did you have to let it go?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, because I can certainly expand. So you guide me on that, because I can definitely share and sort of dive in deeper. But yeah, essentially it was 2008 when, the economy was, shaken, and everyone was, it was a challenging time. And I was really over the sort of rat race of pumping out one collection after another. So it was a clothing line, a women's luxury knitwear line that I had built up and grown and successfully, but with challenges too. And I was in over 400 stores and 6 showrooms and yada, yada. On the outside, it was great. We were getting press and it sounded great and it seemed fabulous. But on the inside, I was just so overwhelmed, just felt broken, felt exhausted, and just, I was just not inspired anymore. The same vision and pulse that had inspired the original development of the brand itself was no longer there. The vision was lost in translation. So that was sort of the impetus. I knew that it just felt like I was just churning it out, and I just felt like a machine, and the creative intention that had kind of initiated the first round of the brand was no longer there. So it was just really grappling with that.
Totally. Thanks for expanding on that as well. The next one I have for you is, what is the most valuable piece of information we should know that's within your expertise or industry?
Yes, I love it. That the heart's power is great enough, and I'm talking science. The electromagnetic field of the heart is powerful enough to light up a small city. And most of us are busy running around crazy town. And when I say crazy town, I mean the busy mind, the nonstop chatter, the chaos that is constantly calling our attention. And when we instead learn how to plug into our heart's power, it's a source that is wise, that is infinitely intelligent, that is guiding, that shows us, purpose, and it's a compass. It's all of those things. And you can actively engage with it to recalibrate stress, anxiety, to find direction. It's a powerful source.
Wow, I did not know that. I knew it was powerful. I didn't know it was that powerful. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So the next one I have for you is, what's your best piece of overall business advice? And if you want, you can kind of maybe go into like what you've done. So like if somebody wanted to start out with what you do now, or maybe even a clothing line or just entrepreneurship in general, like what would you tell them? What would be like your first piece of advice?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would say really to tune into, and this definitely is where the heart comes in, but tune into what you love, what lights you up. It's so important that there is conviction, because real success comes from that level of passion and conviction. So really discovering what that is important, because so often I see entrepreneurs, and I've coached and worked with several, over the years, and seen where the struggle is real in terms of people just trying to ideate from a place of like what everyone else is doing, what the market's doing. Get clear on what you love and what you're called here to bring, and plugging into your heart will help with that. So there's techniques and methods, and I'll even offer some free kind of guidance and things that resources for people to tap in. But you want to plug into what lights you up, what your passion is, beyond all the noise outside, because that will only keep you off center and distract you and get you down a track that likely won't really be fulfilling. And you can have both. You can be fully passionate about what you're doing and build a really successful business.
Yes, I love it. That's what I always tell people. That's like you can intertwine it. So and that's really, I think once you intertwine it, you are on a very nice path. So the next one I have for you, and thanks, hopefully at the end, then you can share those resources, because I'm sure everybody would like to get those. The next one is if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that be?
I would say to stay curious. I think curiosity is really a powerful way to show up in the world. We're so quick to sort of get, sort of ideas about things and form opinions, or they're shoved down our throat, or they're, our surrounding environment conditions us to think certain ways. And staying curious keeps us open to people and opportunities and experiences. And so staying open and curious and not being too judgmental, because there's, it might be just that one conversation with someone opens you up to a whole other world that you had no idea even existed, because we tend to get really fixated on our track.
And the next one, I'm excited for your answer on this one. What is the key to happiness in your opinion?
I believe it's all about the people. So connection and staying connected to your people, especially as entrepreneurs. I see this often where people will go and sort of find themselves in a bit of a silo, or sort of feeling isolated or overwhelmed, and you can have your up days and your down days. At the end of the day, it's all about the people, and really staying connected to people who inspire you and who pump you up, who make you feel good, who celebrate your wins, and who are there when you are struggling. But just surrounding yourself with other like-minded, or I like to say like-hearted people who are there for the journey.
Like-hearted, I like that too. And what is the best book that you've read, and what was the number one thing you learned from that?
I have many, but one of my favorites, and I recommend this, and this is just a good life guide, is The 4 Agreements. And I won't get into all 4 of them, but that's Don Miguel Ruiz. And the one that I absolutely love the most out of the 4 is don't take things personally. And it's such a powerful lesson, because it's so easy to be offended, and we're so quick to just shift gears without realizing that one thing. I mean, a perfect example is, and I see this all the time, people will send out a newsletter and it's like the 2 unsubscribes out of like 50,000 open. We're so quick to get caught up in like the validation and what other people think, and take things personally and misinterpret. So not taking things personally gives you more access to what matters to you, and less of the needing to please, which is never a good solution for living.
I love that book as well. And that is actually my favorite agreement too. It was weird before you said that. Like I heard you like going into it, and I was like, she's going to say, don't take things personally. And then it happened. I'm not kidding.
Yeah. Frequency. That's our frequency.
I love it. A big part of that too, I just want to say for the listeners, is like it's also not only on negative things, but it also says don't take things personally on the positive either.
That's right.
And like obviously it doesn't mean like don't feel good when somebody like compliments you, but it's just like it's always on them. So if somebody thinks you're like amazing or whatever, like that's also something that the book says like don't take personally. Like so I don't know, it's kind of interesting. But next one.
Can I add to that quickly? Because I love that, and it's so true. It's basically not to measure ourselves based on what anyone else has to say or think. And that includes all the social media rah-rah and all the things and what everybody else is doing and comparison game. It's all of that noise. So the not taking it personally is just really anchoring within.
Yes, absolutely. And what is your favorite quote and why?
My absolute all-time favorite is a Maya Angelou quote, and it's people will forget what you say and what you do, but they'll never forget how you make them feel. And I really believe that's so true.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. I loved this episode. The last question I have for you before we let you go is, where is the best place for people to find you online?
Absolutely. Heartrisemovement.com is the website, and the same goes for Instagram, where we post a lot as well. And there's lots of good info in terms of all the ways that you can access HeartRise. My book, High on Heart, is on there too, if you want to have the method in a book. And I will offer your listeners a free month. We just launched our membership, which gives access to all things HeartRise. So if you want to learn how to engage with this power source that we were talking about, there's a lot of amazing tools in that space. So we'll certainly make that available. We can add a link in the show notes maybe.
Perfect. Thanks again for coming on. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
The podcast you just heard was published with Anchor. Got something you want to say to the creator of this show? Send them a voice message using the Anchor app, free for iOS and Android.